In January 2002, Elon Musk strolled into a warehouse in Los Angeles, where he spotted Thomas Mueller hoisting an 80-pound engine over his shoulder as he bolted it into the lower thrust structure of a rocket. This wasn't a day job, Mueller, then an engineer at aerospace manufacturer TRW, would often spend his weekends with Amateur Rocket Club Reaction Research Society to build new kinds of rockets outside his scope at work. Musk had shown up at the club's headquarters to sell its members, including Mueller, on his vision of building a space company that would enable humanity to one day colonize Mars. Before Mueller had the chance to set the engine down, Musk began firing question after question in very typical Elon fashion. Mueller recalls, "What is that? Is that a big engine? What's the biggest engine you've worked on?" "A 650,000-pound engine for TRW." He responded hesitantly. After all, the only thing Mueller knew about Musk was that he was an internet millionaire, recently ousted from his CEO position at PayPal. But it didn't take long for the two to click. When asked if he could build an engine of similar scale from scratch for Musk, Mueller said yes, even though he knew the real answer was no. That was the optimism and the naivety that Elon wanted to see, because that's the way he was too, Mueller said. The very next week, on Super Bowl Sunday, Mueller invited Musk over to his house, where they and a few other members from the Rocket Club conceived what came to be known as the Merlin engine. A few more meetings later, in April 2002, Mueller officially signed on as employee No. 1 at SpaceX, where he spent the next 2 decades as one of Musk's right hands. Today, that Merlin engine powers the Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets, famous for revolutionizing the space industry because they're reusable, allowing for more frequent, lower-cost rocket launches. That propelled SpaceX to a $800 billion valuation, helping turn Musk into the world's wealthiest person, with a net worth of $730 billion. It's also set the stage for a mega IPO that could value the company at up to $1.5 trillion this year, as anticipation bubbles among SpaceX investors and employees for what could be one of the largest public listings of all time. There's another group eagerly anticipating the IPO: early space tech investors. "This is where it starts to get really fun," said Chad Anderson, founder of space-focused investment firm Space Capital. "This massive wealth-creating situation for a lot of SpaceX employees is certainly going to create a dynamic where we see a lot more founders. They'd be in great company. In the last 10 years, SpaceX has spawned a whole generation of talented engineers that have gone on to start a total of 141 new companies. According to Alumni Founders, a data project that tracks startups founded by those who have worked at SpaceX for at least 1 year. Mueller, who left the company in 2020, founded his own startup Impulse Space to build vehicles that move satellites and cargo across different orbits to prevent the need for rocket detours or relaunches. In June, Impulse hit a $1.8 billion valuation after it raised $300 million, bringing the company's total funding to $525 million. Mueller's startup is one of 12 SpaceX alumni-founded companies that have nabbed billion-dollar valuations, a list that also includes rocket makers like Relativity Space, valuation $6 billion, and publicly traded Firefly Aerospace, $3 billion, missile manufacturer Castellion, $2.8 billion, satellite maker Apex, $1 billion, and aircraft manufacturer Hermes, $1 billion. This year, the largest funding rounds in space tech were dominated by former SpaceX staff companies, including K2 Space, total raised in 2025, $375 million, Impulse Space, $300 million, Varda Space, $187 million, Hermes, $160 million, Ursa Major, $150 million, Muon Space, $147 million, and Zona Space Systems, $92 million. In total, SpaceX alumni startups across space tech, AI, energy, mobility, and other verticals have raised $10.6 billion in the last decade and created more than 7,000 new jobs. That's not unusual for a company of SpaceX's stature. The number of SpaceX alumni are only a fraction of the founders who formerly worked at software behemoths like Google, whose alumni have gone on to found more than 2,000 startups, or Meta, with more than 800 alumni startups. According to Crunchbase estimates, the VC database, which auto-generates these estimates based on automatically and manually registered company profiles on its site. Estimates SpaceX's alumni startup count is closer to 60. SpaceX's alumni count falls in line with estimates of NASA alumni's 160 startups and Tesla alumni's 150 startups. 9 Tesla alumni-founded startups have gone on to become unicorns, according to Stanford business professor Ilya Strebulev. But within the space sector, SpaceX's impact is undeniable. Investors say SpaceX is largely responsible for the explosion of investment in space tech, which skyrocketed to a record $10.7 billion this year, nearly double the investment in 2020. At least $1.4 billion of this year's total went to SpaceX alumni companies. That's thanks to SpaceX lowering the cost and increasing the frequency of rocket launches to make space readily accessible, opening up new business opportunities in orbit. SpaceX launched 165 rockets this year, compared to 42 launches from U.S. space companies as a whole in 2018, of which SpaceX launched 21. What's more, in December, President Trump signed an executive order committing at least $50 billion of additional investment to the space industry by 2028. The only reason we're talking about space as an investable category right now is because of SpaceX, Anderson said. For space tech investors, monitoring SpaceX employees after they depart has become a natural part of their job. We are tracking very closely who's leaving the company and what they're going off to do, said Anderson, who's invested in SpaceX alumni startups including Impulse Space, Varda Space, and Lux Eterna, likening 1 year of experience at SpaceX to 10 years at an industry incumbent. Anderson said former SpaceX founders have specialized knowledge and a unique approach to problem solving, thanks to the culture created by Musk. Mueller described his 2 decades at SpaceX in one phrase: extreme hours, extreme ownership. Musk was not shy about calling employees any hour of the night and making them come into the office. There was just no escaping it, Mueller recalled. Laura Crabtree, who worked at SpaceX as an engineer from 2009 to 2020, remembered working heads down, 14 hours a day. It was always a little bit of drowning. Always this feeling of being overwhelmed and overworked, said Crabtree, who left in 2020 to found engineering software provider Epsilon 3. That environment really prepares you for running a startup. Investors also like to see founders borrow from SpaceX's manufacturing heritage to build at breakneck speed. Unlike legacy aerospace and defense manufacturers that outsource most of their components, SpaceX manufactures most of its rockets in-house, a strategy that allows teams to test more frequently and improve rapidly. Take missile manufacturer Castelion, founded by former SpaceX employees Brian Hargis, Sean Pitt, and Andrew Krates. Instead of outsourcing a pricier, already built component from a traditional aerospace supplier to build its weapons, the startup buys cheaper parts from non-traditional suppliers like the automotive industry and assembles them in-house. That's helped Castelion test its missiles more than 20 times this year, compared to only a few times. As is typical for legacy companies, they learned at the school of Elon Musk. They understand how to manufacture in a best-in-class way, said Catherine Boyle, founder of Andreessen Horowitz's American Dynamism Fund, who was an early investor in Castelion and spacecraft manufacturer Apex. Anderson added that he likes how SpaceX alumni founders think with the infamous SpaceX algorithm of constantly questioning every part of the process and removing anything stupid or unnecessary. Chief among all the reasons why SpaceX is special is cultural, and it really comes down to the SpaceX algorithm, how they think and approach problems. He said multiple investors, including Altimeter Capital partner Eric Kreisman, said they've spoken with the majority of former SpaceX alumni founders to inform their investment decisions in the sector. Kreisman participated in Castelion's $350 million funding round and satellite manufacturer K2 Space's $250 million round this year. It helps that SpaceX's valuation has skyrocketed in recent years, and employees' equity stakes have soared. Staff frequently leave after SpaceX's vesting days, which fall twice a year on May 15th and November 15th, when they gain ownership of their stock options and can cash out. In the lead-up to vesting days, employees will often discuss among each other what they plan to do with their new wealth. For instance, that's when Castellan's three co-founders first came together to discuss potentially starting their own company. Hargiz said, the trio left SpaceX in November 2022 to formally found the company. Those vesting days have become notable milestones for investors who are actively on the lookout for promising new founders. Anderson said, though nothing compares to the excitement around the ultimate vesting day, the IPO.